All right, welcome back to Blake's Black Book. Got a good amount of info to get through, so this might end up being a two-parter, um, but we'll see. So, like, subscribe, share, help me out. Trying to grow this mofo. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna get into it. So, the past week or so, 2 weeks, that only thing everyone's really been talking about has been the Epstein files, the release that we've gotten so far. There's been a lot of crazy shit in there. People, people that weren't conspiracy theorists, I think maybe are starting to join the dark side because of all the crazy stuff that was in there. People didn't really think the elites were actually like pedo, like devil worshipping, cannibals, but uh, that turns out to be the case. I mean, people like me who've been kind of balls deep in this stuff have already known that or suspected it, but it's good now that other people are starting to see it. Um, but one of the biggest things that was in there, besides all the pedophilia and murder and all that type of stuff, um, there was a lot of stuff in there with or to do with rituals, specifically like for well, specifically to worship Baal, which a lot of people don't know what that is. Um, Jeffrey Epstein had a bank account that was even named Baal. Um, some people are probably starting to learn and do some like research into it, but this is kind of like something that I've been interested in for a while because I had been kind of looking into the occult, um, and those sorts of things from reading about all the different abuse that goes on to kids and as part of these like mind control programs and all that. But I figured in this video I would kind of go through a little bit, um, go into that a little more in depth and kind of explain what it is that the elites actually believe. Um, First of all, it's not like people will say Satanist. That's actually wrong, but I'll get to that. Um, the proper term, or not necessarily that there's a proper, but the most accurate term I would say is actually Luciferianism. So I put some time and effort into this little presentation, so hopefully it is good. But the thing that the elites actually worship is Lucifer. So you might be like, okay, what is like most people in America, or Christian countries, um, specifically, or Christian people have heard of Lucifer in the context of being like the devil or Satan. That's another name for him, but there's like more to it. So the way that the elites see Lucifer, because you see here, it shows the picture that everyone knows of, um, Eve reaching for the apple, and there's Lucifer, kind of tempting her. The if when people, I don't know if people really think about it, or know this or aware really, or I mean, I don't know. It's been a long time since I went to church or any of that, so I don't know like how special of a detail this is, but the apple represents knowledge, which is something that the elites see as they see God, I guess, as the bad guy for trying to keep knowledge from humans. So therefore, they see Lucifer, who was trying to give this. knowledge to humans, um, he was, rebelling against God, and that was um, the issue, I guess you'd say, that kind of doomed humanity in the minds of Christians. But there's more like the idea of knowledge being given to humans also is represented in other cultures. Down here, I have a picture that's Prometheus, which is like the Greek god um, that brought light from the heavens to earth for humans. And light represents knowledge. So I'll go a little more in depth on that in a second, but here's oh shit, this is something I wanted to look up. So Lucifer, Prometheus, Pan, um, it says here they're not the same entity, but they're frequently linked through mythological syncretism, shared archetypes, and literary interpretation. So it's saying like there's a lot of similarities and things that overlap. And here it kind of explains it a little bit more, or it goes through like each one, I guess you'd say individually. But here you can see under Prometheus, Greek mythology, oh shit, often compared to Lucifer as a light bringer who defies authority to empower humans. Same down here. Lucifer linked to Prometheus because both brought light slash knowledge um, and were punished by a supreme deity. And then here you have Pan, Dionysus, uh, tricksters. While less of a trickster than Prometheus, Dionysus is associated with the overturning of social order, similar to Pan and the rebellious aspects of Prometheus. And then I skipped Pan for some reason, but this one kind of shows where you get the idea of the horned, hoofed, goat-legged representation of the devil. Oh, here you go, the visual representation. Um, so that's kind of the idea behind that is they're all there's no specific religion that these people buy into, I guess you'd say. Like some of them might be Christian or whatever, but or whatever other religion, Jewish most likely. But the idea of knowledge is kind of their God. The idea of humans attaining knowledge and being able to like become gods ourselves, um, which is where the idea of Illuminati comes from. Oh shit! Why do I keep doing that? The meaning of Illuminati in Latin is literally enlightened or illuminated. Um, the term translates directly to the enlightened ones or the illuminated. So the idea of the Illuminati is people that are illuminated with knowledge. They're enlightened with knowledge. That's what is kind of around all these secret societies. I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second too. But that's where the idea of the Illuminati comes from, and it goes back to Prometheus and Lucifer and the passing of knowledge from gods to humans. Um, Something that I guess is forbidden. And here you can see um, Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, which I'm not religious, so I don't want this to seem like like I'm not like Christian anymore. I was raised Christian, but I'm more agnostic. I consider myself like spiritual, I guess you'd say. So I don't want this to seem like I'm like trying to preach a specific religion, but considering that America is mostly a Christian culture, that's why a lot of our politicians and stuff kind of feed into that aspect more, I guess you'd say. But here is Nimrod, also known as, oh shit, I'm moving stuff around. Also known as Baal there. Um, Gilgamesh, Dionysus, Mithra. There's all these different names that all these different cultures have given the same character essentially. And here it says Dionysus is the great grandson of Noah. He was a mighty hunter, blah, blah. But the main connection here between um, Lucifer, Prometheus, all that, and Nimrod and the religion of these elites is right here. Nimrod's defiance against God centered on leading the rebellion at the Tower of Babel to reach the heavens and challenge God's power, with later legends adding his opposition to Abraham and promotion of fire worship. Sounds kind of like Prometheus-esque. Though the Bible itself only names him a mighty hunter and founder of cities, not directly linking him to Babel. And then here you go. Let's see. His name may mean rebel, and he's seen as a symbol of opposition to God, building cities like Babylon and Nineveh, and establishing powerful kingdoms that challenge divine authority. So again, there's the idea of like rebellion and kind of like saying fuck you to God, for lack of better terms. The idea of just kind of being your own authority and deity and God, which leads me to the cult of Baal, which, like I just showed, Nimrod, Baal, Dionysus, they kind of all go together. Those are all different names for Nimrod. So Baal, like I said, is the one that's most brought up by these in these like secret societies, by these elites. This is the one that seems like they, I guess, focus on the most, or is the most popular here. But I've got a couple videos that'll kind of explain it a little bit more, and then I'll go over this chart that I have here that you can't really see and kind of zoom in on that.
Because it's an important piece. Now,
So,
again, at the beginning of
let me start. I love Redacted. I've shown them before, so no surprise.
the show, I warned you, this is going to be dark. This is demonic. Whatever you need to do, a prayer, a crystal, a candle, do it, because I don't want you to take this with you into your day, but it's something I think we need to.
Get your crucifix out, get your rosary beads.
Whatever it is that you believe in, protect yourself and don't let this cling on to you. Okay. You may have seen references to Baal in the Epstein files and the conversations around it. So let's figure out what the heck this is. First, who is Baal? And what do we know about it from the Epstein files? Well, in modern symbology, this is a depiction of Baal. I don't want to leave it on the screen too much, but the Bible says that Baal is not really a cartoonish demon, but a Canaanite fertility and storm god whose name means Lord. But he becomes later this central symbol of Israeli spiritual rebellion, not Israeli, Israel's spiritual rebellion, a rival deity tied to ritual sex exploitation and even child sacrifice in surrounding pagan cultures. Now, the prophets in the Bible, especially Elijah in the Book of Kings, frame Baal worship as seductive counterfeit religion based on power, pleasure, and moral corruption. Now, over time, Jewish and Christian tradition came to interpret pagan gods like Baal as demonic forces operating behind idolatry. So when the name Baal surfaces in modern controversies, it evokes not just ancient false gods, but a biblical shorthand for elite decadence, ritualized immortality, and the abandonment of moral law. Now, not only do various iterations of the word come up and also certain numbers, you can search it yourself. Again, I want you to protect yourself when you do it, but it's BAAL or BAA1 is another way that it comes up repeatedly in these documents. Also, Epstein's own financier, Lex Wessner, made references to it publicly. Here's how researcher Whitney Webb explained that.
What's so crazy too about him being so focused on basically taking control of the leadership of the Jewish American community by basically having it filled with people that he has trained and views that he agrees with or policies or whatever, is that Wexner in 1985 basically is like, yeah, I'm possessed by a demon that tells me what to do. And I have a split personality, and my The nice part of me is stunted, and I'm controlled by like this demon that tells me what to. He uses a Yiddish word that literally means demon. It's Dibuk, I think is how it's pronounced.
Which is actually COVID backwards, right?
I've heard that. I don't really, I haven't looked into that. But anyway, in the case of Wexner, yeah, that's the word he chooses. There's a lot of words he could have picked in Yiddish that sounded nicer, but he wanted to brag about basically being a demon-possessed crazy guy. And who was he catering to there? That's a New York magazine. And so that's a segment I put out from the book already. But when you look at it in the context of a guy that's, per the Jewish faith, saying that he's possessed by using the word that in the Jewish faith means like a demon possession. And he's like, yes, my demon controls me. And he's an integral.
Okay. So
there they kind of went over it. Here you can see the Baal that's represented by the demon or the bull character there, the bull holding the baby. And she mentioned in the video there was a lot to do with child sacrifice and stuff like that. So when you see that these people who are sacrificing kids and doing all these horrible like abuses and stuff, you can kind of see a little bit why when you look at that a little bit more. And then here's another video that I thought that's pretty interesting. This chick Anya Wick. So you have to.
Did you lose a lot of money sports betting on DraftKings or FanDuel?
Still no premium.
Which I don't see as an form as a tool for.
This chick here, Anya Wick, this podcast is pretty wild. I definitely recommend it. Allegedly, to her, or she's alleging, not only is she Jeffrey Epstein's niece, but her grandfather or her dad's grandfather, I can't remember. I think it was her grandfather, was Walt Disney. And the most likely, or not the most likely, but another one that I've kind of looked into too is she supposedly is Shia LaBeouf's twin sister, even though he doesn't have a sister. But she goes into it a lot in this video and explains a lot and goes in depth with all kinds of crazy stuff. And considering the stuff that's came out in the files, it shouldn't be as shocking if it's true. But here she goes again, kind of talking about it and how she kind of got involved through her father, who had been abused and abused her and Shia, and he ended up with Disney, which is just like a buffet for abusers. So makes sense. But here she kind of talks about it a little bit too.
Silencing people. They told me that we belonged to the cult of Baal, B-A'-Al. They told me this with consistency while I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge and my experience, it is not. This is what people perceive the Illuminati to be. It is a group of elites that practices forced and uses these crimes to control people. They happen to have a huge reach over politics and entertainment. My great-grandfather, according to my father, was Walt Disney.
So there you go. There's that part. But you can see where she said, mentioned a fertility cult, mentioned it being a fertility cult, which could have to do with, or could explain Epstein wanting to impregnate all these girls and all of his interest in DNA and genealogy. There's, probably a lot more to that. But here in this chart, I haven't looked through all of it because it's crazy, but this is basically the map of the cult of Baal, and I guess all the different branches, all the different ways it connects to different cultures. I mean, it goes all the way back here to the Sumerians, Phoenicians, um, ancient Babylonians and Egyptians. Here you see the Set, which that'll come back later, and Moloch, that'll come back. Here's Nimrod, Osiris. Its connections to the Roman Empire with the cult of Saturn, synagogue of Satan right here, the Knights Templar, Baphomet, that was their version, Kabbalah, you'll hear about that one, the Vatican. Oh, which I forgot to pull up a picture for this that I'll have to remember. The Vatican, there's that. Freemasons, which is Luciferianism, that's kind of the branch that I guess and then it just connects with, here you see the Federal Reserve, and here's the Illuminati that was started by Adam Weishaupt, Rothschild dynasty. I mean, it's just connected all over, and then who knows, or here's Adam Weishaupt, so it explains that, and you see Rothschild, the Shriners. I mean, Baal, Moloch, Zeus. So this is basically all the different versions or iterations of Baal, of this deity that is a bringer of knowledge. And then here I've got another video. Well, while I'm thinking about it, here when I showed the Vatican here, this is something I just saw a couple of days ago that I thought was wild. I mean, you can probably see it here, but I mean, come on now. You're telling me this isn't a snake? This is the audience hall of the Vatican, which I guess I don't need to do all that. You see this giant snake here. What is... It's a 6,300 seat amphitheater in Rome. Serves as the primary climate-controlled venue for the Pope's Wednesday general audiences. So they meet there every Wednesday in this building, in this hall that looks like a snake, which represents Lucifer, the devil. And considering these people are Catholics, Christians, you would think they would know that, but they're also the ones that are really big into touching kids. So maybe there's a correlation there. So there's that. And then I had another, oh God damn, I keep doing that. I had another video here I thought was pretty good.
Scientists were at the island. They were doing all this fucked up shit.
Tim Dillon, he's a comedian. Freaking, I think he's hilarious, but he's also really intelligent, knows a good amount of stuff about, he knows what he's talking about. You don't have to be an expert nowadays. Everyone's an expert if you do your own research. So.
And he was also engaging in these conversations. So Jeffrey Epstein clearly believed that humanity was a scientific endeavor. And I want bring up Luciferianism, please. Bring up Luciferianism. Bring up the definition of Luciferianism. Let's bring up Luciferianism. It is a philosophy or belief system that views Lucifer not as a devil, but as a symbol of enlightenment, independence, and pursuit of knowledge. Folks, we're getting somewhere. Folks, I think we're getting somewhere. It emphasizes individual responsibility, critical thinking, the balance of light and dark, often drawing from Gnosticism or occult traditions. Unlike Satanism, which may focus on indulgence or rebellion, Luciferianism focuses on self-deification. I am God. Wisdom and personal growth. Jeffrey Epstein and many in the ruling class are Luciferians. They believe, whether it's aesthetic or not, they believe all of these things to be true. They don't believe there's any moral code outside what they can get away with. They believe that they are deities and gods and that they should be able to upload their consciousness and potentially live forever, and that you are biological waste that they should be able to fuck and throw in an ocean for sharks. This is true. It's absolutely true. Now, they might not say it. They might not go, I'm a Luciferian. Now, some of them will. But they're obsessed with Moloch, who's a god of child sacrifice. They're obsessed with Baal and all these things. They're obsessed with demonology. They're obsessed with this idea of becoming their own god. They're obsessed with child sacrifice. They're obsessed with engineering humanity through things like eugenics. Hitler was an occultist. A lot of people around him were occultists. A lot of people in Los Angeles are occultists at much higher levels of the business, you know, that you hear about. You go back to the 60s. They made a lot of great music, whatever. But there was a fair amount of occultism then. More cults come out of, Northern California. More retards come out of Southern California. I always mix that up. More cults come out of Northern California. A lot of those occultists were involved in the United States military. Michael Aquino. This is all very obvious. We were on this shit years ago on this show.
So that was the main thing. He mentioned Moloch at one point. I mean, I don't know if I need to really prove or show it, but again, it's basically Baal, deity associated with child sacrifice. So, that's great. That's a great thing to worship. And then he also mentioned how the military was tied in with the occult, and he mentioned someone, Michael Aquino, right here, who was, I think I put the founder of Temple of Set. I guess he wasn't necessarily a founder, but he, he was a Satanist, and then realized that Anton LaVey and his version of Satanism was kind of like fake, like they didn't believe in an actual being, I guess you'd say, or deity. It was more of like the idea of just like have fun, do what you want, like whatever. But Aquino was like, nah, that's not good enough. So he like broke off and opened or started the Temple of Set, which is another one of these gods that was up here in the map, or one of these figures that was up there in the map. But this dude, like, obviously you can see from his uniform, he was in the military. God, sorry, hold on, let me got all these extra tabs for no reason. Here you go, Michael Aquino, and if you couldn't tell by the picture, that the dude was wacky as fuck. I mean, look at those eyebrows. I mean, look at those. It's intense as hell. But either way, he was a political scientist, military officer, and Satanist, it says, was the founder and high priest of the Temple of Set. Now, this is the part that I think is crazy. So this dude was a specialist in psychological warfare for military intelligence and the office in the U.S. Army. So this occultist, like devil worshipping, pretty evil, I guess you could say, dude is in charge of, or is a specialist in psychological warfare, like warfare of the mind. Like, so I thought that was just crazy. So there's one example of ties to the military with that.